And it's another edition of Boiler Room Radio. I am your host, Jim Funke. You're listening to the live UCY radio. Me and that guy over there in the chair with his feet up on the desk. Get your feet off the desk, Lance. Better to do. How's it going over there, buddy?
Wonderful, wonderful.
98 degrees here today.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, 98. It was only supposed to be like
amazing.
86 predicted for today, I think. 98. They had like in the mid 80s predicted for yesterday and it touched 90. So, I don't know where the extra heat's coming from. They sprayed the crap out of us today, but Enlil didn't care. He was punching right through it. Everything is just toasty warm.
Amazing.
My chickens are all up underneath their roost, getting out of the sun. Summer. No spring, just right straight into summer, you know.
We've still got spring here. It was in the 70s. I don't know that we've had an 80s day yet.
It's coming.
This year.
If this heat holds together and makes it over that way in 2 days, buddy, you'll be walking around in short sleeve shirts and shorts, showing off them white legs.
Well, I'm playing golf in 2 tournaments this week, Wednesday and Friday. Actually, at my favorite course where I got my hole-in-one at.
Nice.
But it's going to be 83 on Wednesday for our first round and like 78 or 80 on Friday. So yeah, it's coming.
I'd give it 10 more degrees. I'll bet you the thermometer surpasses what they predict.
Yeah, it's very well true. Very well could be.
What?
No. I was actually going to start out before I went into the market minute.
Right on.
On just a quick blurb on the Titanic. You know, I've done a lot of research on the Titanic. I dropped a video to you because there's a lot of credible evidence that the Titanic was actually the Olympia that sunk, and you know.
Oh yeah, they changed the names on the sides of the ship. I mean, that's evident from some of the videotape you can see.
Yeah, you can actually see, on the ship. So I'm digging into this Titanic stuff.
Right.
And I ran across a little known fact today, which was actually pretty cool. And you may have heard it, but some of the listeners may have not have. But a little known fact is that back in 1912, Hellmann's mayonnaise was manufactured over in England. Did you know that?
No.
In fact, the Titanic was carrying 12,000 jars of the condiment scheduled for delivery down to Veracruz, which was the next port of call after the, ship made its first stop in New York. Mm-hmm. It would have been the largest single shipment of mayonnaise ever delivered to Mexico. But as we all know, the ship didn't make it to New York. It hit an iceberg and sank, and the cargo was lost forever. But little known, the people of Mexico, they were crazy about the mayonnaise, and they were, devastated at the loss of not being able to get all this 12,000 pounds, and their anguish was so great. They actually had a national day of mourning for it, and they still observe it to this day. And it occurs on every year, and of course it's known as the Cinco de Mayo.
Yikes. Bum. I saw so many Facebooks today, 5 jars of mayonnaise. Cinco de Mayo, happy Cinco de Mayo. I saw one lone jar in the middle of a sink. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, okay. So today's make fun of Hellmann's Day.
Well, no.
Because Miracle Whip's not mayonnaise, it's salad spread.
Dude,
salad
Miracle
dressing.
Whip is the bomb.
It's not mayonnaise though, it's salad dressing.
Well, that's fine. I like Miracle Whip, but
I don't. I like Hellmann's. I like the real stuff. Okay, so from condiments to Smoke'em's Market Minute.
Mm-hmm. The market
coleslaw before the meeting.
That's right. Market up today. Bonds down a little bit. Highly manipulated. So
always.
We won't even dig into that so much.
No.
You got a couple, tidbit stories, but one of them, not so much the financial, but dealing with the White House and stuff. Did you know that there was a media monitor to preemptively kill the stories of reporters, like when they do Twitter? There's an official title, media monitor, who tracks journalists' tweets and flags them in mass emails. And then if they get too many of them, they actually reach out to their bosses and get their hands slapped by making too many anti-government tweets. Ain't that some crazy stuff?
Why? Read that again. Because censorship,
White House
government. No way.
There's people that feed these. The results are reporters who regularly cover Obama have become familiar with seemingly out of the blue emails or telephone calls from officials taking issue with their tweets, often thoughtfully and constructively, sometimes with obscenity-laced yelps of outrage. White House communication staff track her alerts. This is Chief of Staff Dennis, White House counsel Kathy Rumer, Press Secretary Jay Councey, and Senior Advisor Dan Pfeiffer. These are all the media monitors, if you will.
Oh, jeez.
She watches Twitter feeds of influential reporters for comments the White House might view as inaccurate, incomplete, or unfair, as well as clues as to what they are reporting on, how it might portray the president or the administration. Interestingly, the White House doesn't often respond to reporter tweets on Twitter, preferring instead to pick up the phone or send an off-the-record email, private one-on-one communications. If a Republican official is involved in an exchange, they'll get involved. If the White House wants to amplify a point it considers beneficial, it'll get involved. And if it sees confrontation with a reporter as politically useful and wants to escalate it, it'll get involved.
Imagine that.
So they're following that Twitter. Interestingly enough.
That's just wrong. That's just wrong. You know,
I thought so.
It's freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to. You know, if you get caught dropping some disinfo, then that's going to look bad on you. Why would the White House give a poo?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's factually inaccurate. Whatever. It's my opinion, jackass. That's why it's Twitter. You know, if it was a blog, that might be a little different. If it was a reporter's YouTube video or something that made it to air or something that made it to print, that'd be a whole different story. But the Twitter, I mean, that's just social network, right? That's not like a news site. Yeah,
but it's trending, and it trends in the demographic that they want a lot of times. But
yeah, okay.
But moving on to one of my interesting stories, King World News.
That one was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I always do. You know, I like King World News because they always have some good interviews, interviewees on there. And today they had John Embry. And before we get to the serious stuff, I enjoy the Kentucky Derby, which is a great American tradition. And the horse that won is a true miracle. It's just a couple of ordinary guys who have real jobs, don't have a lot of money, but they, for less than $10,000, ended up owning a colt. And this was the colt that ended up winning the Derby. The horse beat all these $1 million horses, which are owned by sheiks and plutocrats. It is a great, story of all time. It's
Cinderella
story, just like Caddyshack. It's nice to see a miracle because that's what we're going to need in the real world. It's in the hole. That's what we're going to need in the real world if we're going to try to bail this mess out. And I don't think we're going to get one. As an example, we just had the most preposterous jobs report released by the United States. Is a total embarrassment because 234,000 jobs.
Is Embry saying this?
Yeah.
Outstanding.
That was an embarrassment because 234 jobs came from the birth-death model. The birth-death model was created to measure small business jobs growth at a time when the economy was expanding quite aggressively. I don't think it's valid in the least any longer. And then the unemployment rate drops to 6.3% because nearly 1 million people dropped out of the labor force. They are now the lowest amount of people in the labor force since 1978. And that was back when the number of women entering the labor force was actually ramping up. But the labor force numbers are an enormous problem. I agree with John Williams, who says that the number of employable people who aren't working is probably between 20 and 25% of the population. We've even guessed a little higher than that. All of this tells me that the Western Central
32% was the last one I saw that was.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate. But these guys are, at least triple what the official one are on record. All of this tells me Western central planners have something seriously wrong going on behind the curtain, because it is so dire that they have to consistently release phony numbers and economic reports accompanied by mainstream media propaganda. It makes me wonder what's really going on. The other thing that caught my attention was the CME is now talking about proposed limits on the daily price movements of the gold and silver. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind that when gold and silver were getting pounded with all these flash crashes, there were no limits. I was talking to Eric Sprott about this, and we both agreed that this is probably an indication that Western central planners realize that gold and silver are ready to explode to the upside.
Explode.
And they want to make sure the upside move is managed to some degree so it doesn't get out of control.
And they don't lose their ass.
Regardless, I consider this development to be extraordinarily positive. Then I was laughing late last week when Morgan Stanley came out and said gold would never trade through $1,300. It only took 2 days to prove them wrong. Clearly, Morgan Stanley is part of the bullion bank cartel, so I had to laugh when they ended up with egg on their face within 48 hours.
Wah, wah.
Also, if the U.S. economy is as red hot as the media is trying to depict, why are the 10-year yields falling day by day, and they are now sitting at a 7-month low, which is mortgage rates? This is not what would be happening if the economy were the least bit robust. As they spew out manufactured lies to the American public. He added in closing, I just want to add that no one knows what is going to happen in Ukraine, but everyone knows that it's become a real mess. China and Russia are conducting joint military drills, and that's the last thing that the West wants to see.
6,000 troops apiece.
The last thing I wanted to mention to you was regards to Rick Rule's kind remarks about my business partner. And Eric now believes we are getting close to something big on the upside for gold and silver. So I would be really worried about traditional financial assets. End of interview.
So get out of bonds, right?
Well, I mean, everything as they're talking about was physical. And not so much even,
get out of GLD and SLV ETFs if you have them.
Yeah, there was one of them, and it must have been a little longer than I wanted to go into. But this guy was saying, get all your gold into physical and put them in safety deposit boxes, preferably outside of the United States if you have the means to do it. I mean, it's,
But let me ask you a question. With people parking their money overseas,
mm-hmm.
if there's a true shit hits the fan solar flare,
how you gonna get over there and get it?
Exactly. You gonna swim? You gonna paddle your boat?
And that may be one reason I didn't even read the story, because out there as it was, I was kind of thinking, well, how are you gonna go get it if it's something really goes down? I mean,
read it. We got time today, brother. Read it.
Oh, no, that's a gone story.
Oh, okay.
I read that earlier today. I wouldn't even know where to find it right now.
All right. But yeah, do you ever recommend that to anybody? Park your shit overseas?
I wouldn't.
Now, maybe in Mexico, I wouldn't really trust the Mexican government or nothing like that. But
no.
At least you can walk there, you know what I mean? Or Canada.
No, I'm on your kick. The land and, consumables, land, renewables.
Buy some seeds.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. One invested a big 2,000 pound pile of worm dirt for your garden. Worm castings are awesome, man. They keep bugs down in your yard too if you spread it over your yard. Worm castings put off a certain chemical that hard-bodied insects don't like because it dissolves their shell. So, just a little factoid. Go ahead.
Mark Faber from Gloom, Boom, and Doom Report is an international investor known for his uncanny predictions of the stock market and futures market around the world. And his latest predictions are terrifying to those watching the economic collapse happen in America. His latest interview, which is in the video below, where he assures the public that a significant correction for the market is long overdue. But there are a couple of articles that preface this interview, which allows readers to understand how these events have been folding. And for example, on May 2nd, he predicted that a market crash is coming in the second half and says, we have already had a big break in parts of the market, but we haven't had the big break in the overall market, and it's too late to buy the U.S. stock market out.
In the second half, that would be post-July. No.
Yeah. I mean, second half is June.
June, July, August.
Yep, yeah. Exactly.
June, July, August is third quarter. Mm-hmm. September, November, December. Yep.
But he joins other names, such as Gerald Celente and many others that are all warning what is to come. No one can give an exact date because there are a variety of methods. The U.S. can stave off the dollar collapse, the market collapse, and therefore an entire economic collapse of epic proportions. But eventually these stalling tactics will hit the wall, and then America spirals into a free fall. So again, I mean, they can do a whole lot to stave it off even further. So until they can not get any more money, milk us for any more money, it'll continue. And personally, I don't think until they get the guns away from anybody, they can do anything.
That is never going to happen. That is never going to happen. They sure are
trying, though. They sure are trying.
But they won't even, who's going to be the dumbass to come out on the mic and say, we're coming for your guns? Because that's the last thing that dude will ever say as a public servant.
Well, Cuomo's saying it almost every day. I mean, the Connecticut
not
people
said it. Blanket, they're trying to tell him to register. That's a whole different deal than we're coming to get them.
Step one.
Well, but I'm just saying,
Step one, yeah.
It's going to be a sad day. It's going to be an ugly day in this country when those words hit the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine there will be a whole lot of badges hitting the floor with people saying, I quit.
Would imagine.
All right. What else you got?
No, that's it for mine. I got a good story, biggest story that's being ignored by mainstream media to go into after we finish Scott and anything else.
That's all. I mean, I got Scott right now because Manarino's shutting up for 3 days.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we won't even have him on Wednesday. We'll try. Maybe I'll do a
leak camp
something. Yeah, but not today. We'll just give Scott his 222 and go from there.
Hello, this is Scott and this is the Hype Report. Today's report is sponsored by the free book Ramblings of a Madman. Here are the quotes for various items. First, big ears. Even though Obama may have ginormous ears, that is nothing compared to the NSA, as they have not stopped listening on German officials like Merkel. Is it any wonder that Merkel said that full trust had not been restored between the U.S. and Germany? And this is the way the U.S. treats its allies? Yikes. Next, China housing bubble. A leaked recording from China's biggest property developer indicates that China has reached its capacity limit for new construction and residential projects. So, when China's market bubble pops, everyone will feel the effects. Next, Italy's gold. Italy's central bank recently published a report indicating that the New York Fed has over 1,000 tons of Italian gold. Of course, when they ask for it back, they will hear, and it's gone. Next, silver misinformation. The CME spin is spectacular in that they actually claim that overall 2013 silver investment demand fell despite official coin sales increasing 30 to 40 million ounces.
Shit.
Next, unemployment rate. The official unemployment rate dropped from 6.7 to 6.3%. However, the reason for the drop was 3 times as many people dropped out of the labor force than joined it. The civilian labor force dropped by 806,000 last month, and 91.6 million Americans were not in the labor force as the labor force participation rate dropped to 62.8%. In addition, women not in the labor force has hit a record high of 55.1 million. Get ready for more stock market highs. Next, edited recordings. 2 months have elapsed since Malaysian Airlines MH370 disappeared. Now it appears with background noises and long gaps to an audio-video forensic expert that 7 minutes of released audio recordings were edited. Another Benghazi-like fraud? Next, how many paid? Just 2.45 million out of the supposed 8 million Obama-Rec enrollees paid their premiums by April 15th. So, will the government force doctors to see Obama-Rec enrollees now? Fascism sucks. Speaking of fascism, next, Common Core Rebellion. Teachers out of Brooklyn High School became the first in New York to refuse to administer a nationalized standardized Common Core test. Nice. No fewer than half the parents at Prospect Heights had opted for their children out of the test. So, the rebellion against Obama's apparent fascist activities are gaining steam. Time to call in those NYPD police that like to shoot drunk people for the fun of it? Finally, please prepare now for the escalating economic and social unrest. Good day.
I heard that the NYPD were drunk shooting people. Did anybody else catch that story? I don't have it right in front of me, but that's what I saw on a blurb that got passed to me, was that they had reports of NYPD officers getting drunk and going on little random shooting sprees, just popping innocent people. What kind of shit is that? Okay. So let's dive into your story that you got there.
Coming from Story Leak, Seek Truth and News. And I was reading the comments because, when I read something on alternative sites, if you will,
yeah.
I always try to read the comments too, because there's a lot of smart, informed people out there that if there's something fake about something, they're pretty quick to point it out.
Yeah.
And, if you don't see a whole lot of trolls going through, then you really know. Of course, if you do see some trolls, then you know they're onto something. Yeah. That's kind of the way I look at it too. But Michigan marks the 34th state necessary to commence a constitutional convention. Familiar with this story?
Say that one more time.
Michigan marks the 34th state necessary to commence a constitutional convention.
Oh, yes. That's the referendum.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
keep going. This is excellent. I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but go.
Mainstream media has just simply ignored it.
Yeah.
The following news alert conveys what is perhaps the most important development in these United States of America this year, this decade, and this millennium. Truly, it does not.
History.
Yes. Truly, it does not get any bigger when the appropriate legal mechanisms have been triggered to initiate a constitutional convention. The upshot of this extremely profound and unparalleled initiative implemented by 34 states is as nation transforming as it is highly consequential for every American citizen. Regardless of where this U.S. federal government altering procedure goes regarding the proposed balanced budget amendment, the message that it sends cannot be misunderstood. We, the people, are fed up with business as usual in Washington, D.C. That said, the Obama administration has so operated as a lawless tyranny. I knew I was saying that wrong. That the ultimate outcome from this state-driven process was rapidly advanced perhaps by several years. Thank you, Mr. Obama. It appears that you have unwittingly become the change agent that he promised to be, and not quite in the way that he planned. Whereas Obama did not promise
be careful what
USA
you wish for.
hope and change, the real change that he is likely to experience in his lifetime has no historical precedence in U.S. history. The inevitable revolution being waged by the states at the insistence of their citizens does not ignore the impelling influences by the previous Bush administration. Back-to-back despotic, D-E-S-P-O-T-I-C, and rogue administrations serve to show the American people just how far the political class has fallen. It is now quite clear to virtually everyone concerned that there is no hope for their brand of leadership, and therefore no lasting and much needed change can be expected under their watch. For those who comprehend the defining moment at hand, it is still premature to celebrate. The politicos and power brokers, corporate titans, business magnates, financiers, bankers, lawyers, and lobbyists will do everything in their power to subvert the upcoming process of realignment. They will do everything in their power to sabotage the originally conceived constitutional republic from taking shape. They will seek to disempower both the states and the people as they have always done. Therefore, be aware of the wolf in sheep's clothing. The most important political development in 200 years was triggered last week when the state legislature of Michigan became the 34th state to demand a constitutional convention in the United States. Under Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, if 2/3 of the states call for such a convention, meaning 34 states, it must take place. During such a convention, the entire Constitution can be changed. Nothing is off limits. This would even allow the states to dismantle the federal government without its consent and repudiate the debt which the government has incurred. When it voted for the convention last week, Michigan became the 34th state, thus meeting the requirement. A goal has been reached beyond what would be an unprecedented effort to amend the U.S. Constitution through a little-known provision that gives states, rather than Congress, the power to initiate changes.
That's right, because the power rests with the people.
Well, it's supposed to, but they do a good job of not letting us know this.
I know, but still, go ahead.
This may be the most significant political development in the entire world in the last 200 years.
This is important.
Well, yeah, and you didn't hear anything about this on the evening news.
Nope.
At issue is what's known as a constitutional convention, a scenario tucked into Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. At its core, Article provides two ways for amendments to be proposed. The first, which has been used for all 27 amendments to date, requires 2/3 of both the House and the Senate to approve a resolution before sending it to the states for ratification. The Founding Fathers, though, devised an alternate way, which says if 2/3 of state legislators demand a meeting, Congress shall call a convention for proposing amendments.
And it's supposed to happen within 6 months or something, yeah? I think.
I don't see that part, but it may say it in here. The idea has gained popularity among constitutional scholars in recent years, but got a big boost last week when Michigan lawmakers endorsed it. Michigan matters because by some counts, it was the 34th state to do so. That makes 2/3. In the wake of the vote, California Republican Duncan Hunter pressed House Speaker John Boehner today to determine whether the states just crossed the threshold for this kind of convention. Like Michigan lawmakers, Hunter's interest in the matter stems from a desire to push a balanced budget amendment, something that could be done at a constitutional convention.
Tired of you spending trillions.
Mm-hmm. And then not being accountable for them. Based on several reports and opinions. Yep. Michigan is the 34th state to issue such a call and therefore presents the constitutionally required number of states to begin the process of achieving a balanced budget amendment, Hunter wrote. With the recent decision, it is important that the House and those of us who support a balanced budget amendment determine whether the necessary number of states have acted and the appropriate role of Congress should be in this case.
And where's your goddamn birth certificate? Sorry.
Well, listen to how they're going to get out of this, and I know it. If 2/3 of the states have indeed applied, the ball is presumably in Congress's courts to call the convention. But Article 5 is rather vague, and it's ultimately unclear whether 34 states have technically applied. In the past, states like Oregon, Utah, Arizona have quietly voted to approve the provision in their legislature. But some of the 34 or so have rescinded their request. Others have rescinded and then reapplied. Alabama rescinded its request in 1988, but in 2011, lawmakers again applied for a convention related to an amendment requiring that the federal budget be balanced. It was also a similar story in 2010 in Florida. Louisiana rescinded in 1990, but lawmakers have tried several times unsuccessfully to reinstate the applications since then. It's unclear whether the applications still count in these scenarios. Some constitutional scholars like Gregory Watson, an analyst in Texas, say once states ask, there may be no takebacks. There is disagreement among scholars as to whether a state that has approved an application may later rescind that application, Watson told the Washington Times. If it is ultimately adjudicated that a state may not rescind a prior application, then Ohio's 2013 application for a balanced budget amendment convention would be the 33rd, and Michigan's 2014 would be 34. Others say that if a state changes its mind, it can no longer be part of the 34. And I'm sure those others are ones that are opposed to them. Even if the requisite number
of... Sounds like a bunch of bitchy women going back and forth on that Fifth Amendment, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Article 5. Even if the requisite number of states have applied, questions remain how such a convention would work, and whether, as Michigan wants, such a convention could be limited to only discussing a balanced budget amendment. It still may be a long shot, but some analysts are warning about the unintended consequences of such a move. In Louisiana, budget project policy analyst Steve Spire argued against the state's resolution, saying the convention could permanently damage the nation's political system. What he calls damage, others call improvement.
There you go. I was going to say, you can't damage it much more than it already is, for God's sakes, man. I mean, wow. Okay, keep going.
In conclusion, the USA now finds itself at a critical moment of the American experiment. Since the 2000 election of George W.
Somebody else knows.
The divisions between red and blue states have never been so wide and deep. The socioeconomic conflicts, political acrimony, and philosophical arguments between people of different political persuasions and religious stripes are as intense and irreconcilable as ever. Given this volatile state of affairs, there must be a new forum in which to rationally discuss and objectively debate the future of the nation. To our thinking, a full-blown constitutional convention may be the only way out of the current political paralysis, where such a forum may be exploited by those with selfish and or narrow interests. The states can act as a gatekeeper to ensure proper and proportionate representation. At the end of the day, the people must be represented in full force, or else such a convention will be an unsuccessful exercise in futility. Now, the challenge will be to determine how to hold a conference in an unbiased location or through the digital format using all the tools available on the internet to keep the dialogue flowing and open to all U.S. citizens. In this way, the corporate media cannot screen out their own prejudiced problem areas or filter in their favorite biases. They are already guilty of giving very little reporting to such an important and historic opportunity, which has emerged from the constitutional crisis they shamelessly helped to create. Perhaps the time has come for the USA to assume the form of constitutional republic that it was designed to be. Although this nation purports to export freedom and democracy around the world, our brand of democracy has been totalitarian in nature, between fascism and communism, relentlessly bogged down in political correctness, administered by leadership that is perennially addicted to deception. Clearly, the time has come for a renewed form of governance and political economy which truly serves the citizenry and not the other way around. And Jimmy Funke's going to say anarchy.
The time has come. Yes. The time has come for the end of government. They have done nothing but screw up.
Federal government needs to go away. I think state governments could work. I think state governments could work. There has to be, there isn't enough common decency.
Power
spread
corrupts.
Out.
And
there is
absolute
not
power
enough common
corrupts,
decency
absolutely.
within the fibers of the American people to make that happen. They cannot be left to their own devices at this point in time.
I beg to differ, because survival of the fittest wins out anyway. In the end. You feel me?
Well, the meek shall inherit the earth too, so.
Meek doesn't mean weak.
No, I didn't say that.
Right. I'm just, I think that we should just leave this planet and the people on it to their own devices. We're an intelligent species. We can figure shit out on our own.
Natural law or whatever it is.
Natural selection. Law of natural selection. Right. If you piss enough people off, man, they're going to come hang you. So that's the way shit goes. Right. And if you rob the wrong person, you don't rob anybody else ever.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Can you imagine the frame of mind it takes to want to control people?
Exactly.
What kind of a person?
People are stupid, so we need a collection of people to control the people that are stupid. So we need a collection of people to control the people that are stupid. Right.
Yeah. What kind of a narcissistic person does it take that wants to run for an office that gets to control?
Because I know how to live your life better than you.
That's just wrong on so many levels.
I know where you need to work. I know how much you need to make. And I know how many taxes you need to fork over to me. Because I'm a politician. I come from a rich family. I've never worked a day in my life.
Affluenza.
So I know everything.
Call that. Yeah.
I went to a really prestigious college and hung out with a bunch of snooty assholes. Joined a club based on blood. And now I'm going to send your kid to die in a war. Because it makes me money.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Anything else you got over there? Because that referendum thing's pretty hot, man. People need to really understand that, and we need to figure out whether or not all 34 of these things are still valid, and if they are, we all need to start emailing our congressmen and telling them, you need to have a congressional get-together.
It's pretty,
and address our concerns about the overwhelming budget.
It's pretty monumental. I know you don't like the political process, and I still watch
but
Fox.
If it's going to work,
I still watch MSNBC.
You sheep. If it's going to work for us, though, if it's going to work for us in the short term, I say give it a go. If it'll throw a wrench in the crap that's going on, let's give it a shot.
Hey, man, I'm all about.
I think we need a bunch of ropes and a bunch of trees, but
I'm all about banning the federal government. I think everything needs to be at a state level.
Local
and state levels.
State, F the state.
That's what happened before we had true federal government anyway. There wasn't a welfare system back in our creation. Of course, we got a lot more people now. Very dependent on the hand of the government, if you will. Over half of
the government doesn't give away anything that they don't steal from somebody else because they have nothing.
That's a good quote. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nothing else?
No.
Jump over here and.
Yeah, those are my interesting story. I read that one. I haven't heard anything about the Indiana or the hospital virus thing. I haven't heard anything more about that.
There's a big kibosh on that. I even searched the Indiana papers to see if there was anything leaking out about it.
They're going to keep that quiet.
Yep, nothing.
Especially Potter blog doesn't have anything on it yet, so.
Now, we're just going to talk about the Ukraine for a little bit. We got, 20 minutes left in the show? Okay, so we'll spend a little time on this. Because what's happening here, people, if you don't get it yet, is that NATO and the EU are picking a fight with Russia. Just like our government's picking a fight with the people in this country by flicking us and kicking us and poking us every chance they get. the EU and NATO are now doing the same thing to Vladimir Putin. They're poking him with a stick every chance they get and trying to kick off this war. Now, you can agree with me or you can disagree with me. That's the way I see things. I collect as much information as I can get my hands on, and I evaluate it to the best of my ability. And I don't think that I'm a dumbass. I can see through what's happening in Washington. I can see through the propaganda that they're putting out on the mainstream media. And it's, if you search for 20 minutes through alternative sites and read a few articles, you will see it too. They're pushing fake stories, fake pictures. They're making shit up on the fly, and they've got agents over there, CIA, FBI, and other people that are provoking this crap. They're paying people $1,000 cash to beat the crap out of innocent people as they walk down the street. And now, this story hits the wire today. I don't know if you've been watching everything that's been happening in Donetsk. I mean, we talked about it on the last show Friday about those battles are still going on. The Ukrainian army is still going in to different places in Donetsk region and killing their own people. It's ridiculous, man. It's completely ridiculous. But now we got this. This is the stick. Excuse me. NATO's 3-week spring storm drill involving a record-breaking number of 6,000 troops has begun in Estonia. For the first time, a cybersecurity team from France is participating in the military exercises. This year's spring storm brings together a record number of allied troops. Infantry from the Duke of Lancaster's regiment, soldiers from Latvia, soldiers from the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team of the U.S. Army, as well as soldiers from Lithuania, the Estonian Defense Ministry, and others said in a statement. In addition, Poland has sent 3 of its Sukhoi Su-22 attack aircraft and a division of missile defense systems, SA-8s, which will be tasked with protecting an airbase near Tallinn, the surrounding airspace. Just like last year, the exercise also involves anti-aircraft personnel from Belgium. The main goal of the military exercise is to assess the skills of the infantry battalions, rehearse cooperations between different units, and improve management methods of staff divisions, the ministry stressed. The spring storm drill has been held annually in different parts of Estonia since 2003. This year, military maneuvers will be held in 5 out of 15 Estonian counties, including southern and southeastern regions close to the border with Russia. The exercises are scheduled to finish on May 23rd. Britain, France, and the U.S. have been deploying troops to the Baltic region since April 29, a week ahead of the drills in Estonia. A day earlier, around 150 personnel of the U.S. Airborne Division arrived in a military transport aircraft to Amari Air Base. Upon completion of maneuvers, the U.S. Marines will remain in Estonia at least until the end of the year. Amid rising tensions in Ukraine, UK and France deployed 8 fighter jets to Lithuania and Poland to strengthen NATO air defenses over the Baltic region. On May 2nd, a group of NATO ships arrived in Lithuanian port of Klaipėda, to ensure regional security. Russia considers the increase of NATO forces so close to its borders a provocation and believes it is a counterproductive move in the struggle to de-escalate tensions in Ukraine. Monday, Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu called on his American counterpart Chuck Hagel to cool down the rhetoric over Ukraine and work together to defuse the situation. So, in that very last paragraph, you hear exactly what I've been saying. The Russians are trying to de-escalate what is happening in Ukraine, and NATO is not. They're poking a stick at the bear. Lance?
Well, the one of the articles I read, and I was trying to find it here, and I don't see it, but Europe is weaning themselves from any dependence whatsoever on Russian oil. And
that's impossible, dude. $400 million or $400 billion is what the EU used last year. $400 billion worth of their gas and oil.
I'm telling you, this article was they're all trying to figure out a way to
I'm just saying
stick it to Putin. I know what you're saying. You're right. But they're all trying to find a way to stick it to Putin and show him that the relationships are not going to be the same after all this is over. The red line's been crossed. We are, not going to be dependent on you for oil. And Putin should be going, hell yeah, then I don't need to sell my oil. I can sell it for my currency now if y'all aren't going to be buying it, forcing them to go through OPEC and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll again backfire, on EU, US, the rest of them.
Yeah.
I just dropped you a link too on the Ukraine, in the Skype. Dude, you're not going to see these photos anywhere else.
I know. I saw, and I'm getting ready to drop this in chat too. I saw the whole red armband thing earlier today on RT. They're on top of that.
Did you, before you drop that link, did you go down? I mean, they're pretty graphic videos of burnt out buildings and burnt out people.
Bodies laying there, yep.
Okay, good. So, I mean, it's graphic in nature, but this is what's going on there right now.
And they had a reporter inside the building today and yesterday, actually two or three different ones, and they are showing on RT exactly not the bodies and stuff, but I mean the inside of the building, and they're showing pools of blood, and they're like, look, if these people burn to death, where'd this blood come from? Because you don't bleed like this when you burn to death.
That's what they're saying. They were shot to death. And
they have videotape of a guy sitting down there, and they have videotape of snipers on the building across the street up in the top of the building. And there's a guy standing down there with an automatic, with just a little handgun, automatic, just popping at the windows as they're trying to wave for help.
Yep.
And these are the guys wearing the red armbands. They're showing some of these people, where they came from. This guy, he's dead in the building, and they show a picture of him out in front just hours before.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is horrible, man.
Oh, that's horrible.
Those two people didn't burn to death. Those two bodies right there aren't burnt. Those two bodies are just laying there. One of them has his shirt covered in blood.
Yep.
They said that a lot of the people, the guys outside that started the fire and everything, started throwing the Molotov cocktails, were in the building prior to them setting it on fire, trying to kick the doors in of all these rooms where people lock themselves away, trying to stay safe or whatever, because they knew they were just coming in there to kill them. And they actually, on RT, they showed footprints on the doors where they tried to kick the door in.
Mm-hmm.
40 people. They murdered 40 people in that building. Wow, these are just horrible pictures, man. Oh my God. Look at the bullet holes that you can plainly see that cat right there is shot 3 times in the head. Pop, pop, pop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the pregnant woman. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, bent over the desk. I saw that.
Oh my God, man.
There's,
that's just,
trouble brewing. I mean, that's
what I'm saying. They're picking a fight.
Somebody's going to use this as propaganda to step in and say, somebody, one side or another, is going to use it to their advantage.
I'm tweeting this out real quick, man.
Yeah, I don't think that link will be active for very long just because it's pretty graphic. I think they'll try to shut that down.
This is from Global Research, everybody. Now, again, just to reiterate what Lance said, there are some extremely graphic pictures on this link. So if you click it, do it at your own.
Yeah, like Faces of Death graphic, like the movie Faces of Death graphic.
So there it is.
So you know.
Yeah. Be careful if you got kids around, if you got, a weak stomach, maybe you're probably not going to want to scroll through those photos. You might want to read the article, but just to let you know, if you feel as moved as I do about everything that's happening over there, you might want to pass that around to some of your friends and let them see what's actually going on. Because you're not going to see that on NBC or CBS or ABC or Fox or Al Jazeera America. You just, they're going to tell you what they want. They're trying to tell you that there's Russians running all over Ukraine doing all this shit, and it's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's CIA provoked.
How can anybody want, to do that to another human? Just peace and love, man.
For money.
We need more peace and love, man. People are jacked up. Most people are jacked up.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore, man.
No, me either. I'm ready for fourth phase, but I want to live on this planet, but I don't want to live on this planet with these bunch of
not with these people.
Jerks that are running the planet. I mean, they're
corrupt,
sociopaths,
money hungry, power hungry, arrogant.
Yeah, I mean, good thing we're trying to keep your show clean, because we could ramble off a bunch of nasty names for them, but
yeah,
you're right. I mean, I don't want to live with those people anymore.
No, but I don't think they're people. I think they're soulless. And if you don't have a soul, you're not a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't make the decisions that these people make, and you can't sign the things that these people sign without a conscience.
How do you sleep at night? I mean, yeah.
That's what I mean. I think they are soulless people. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few photographers out there now, that are catching their inner demon coming to the surface. Some of the pictures of Hillary, some of the pictures of Bronco, Dianne Feinstein, Pelosi.
Wait, with their reptilian shape shifting?
Well, no. I'm just saying you see the evil in their face. You see the expressions that you can only catch in that 1/1000th of a second that it takes to snap that photo. You know what I mean? But they're coming out, and you see them all over the web. Now, granted, some of them are probably photoshopped, but you can pretty much tell when something's been photoshopped. If you know anything, what you're looking at, the background will get blurry or get twisted or what. I mean, you know what you're looking at. And a lot of these photoshops, or a lot of these photos aren't. The whole, when Hillary Clinton was sitting in front of Congress and she was doing the whole, what difference does it make now? Somebody snapped a couple of photos with her and her hands in the air, and you could just see the evil on her face. It captured it.
Yeah.
It's like looking right through. Yeah. You can see right through all of her bullshit and see what she truly is on the inside. And she is not a soulful human. She is a soulless being.
Yeah, there's other ones like that. Karl Rove, Dick Cheney. They just look evil.
They are evil. They don't just look it. Yeah.
They are. Animals.
Disgusting pieces of flesh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, this story that we're talking about is white people. I mean, there's no Islamic jihadist things, but it's just as brutal. But you're not used to hearing about it if it's not in the Middle East, or at least for the last 10 years.
That's because that's the propaganda that's been pushed to us, man.
Well, of course.
Muslims aren't an evil people. Muslims aren't,
as a whole.
Right. No, the Wahhabists are crazy.
Radicals. Mm-hmm.
Yes. They are crazy.
Ain't no different than a radical Christian or anything else. I mean, people can be radical regardless of,
if the words Sharia law come out of their mouth, they're Wahhabists.
Right.
Because Muslims don't agree with Sharia law. Sharia is a bastardization of the Muslim faith. Religion is a scam, just so everybody knows.
Was religion is for people afraid of going to hell. Spirituality is for people that have already been there or
and
something like that.
Made it through.
I'm spiritual. I'm not religious.
That's right. No Carl. I can't believe it, man. The sun went.
I know, man. We hear Carl.
Carl.
Yeah, we hear Carl when we call in before the show and we talk before the show. Carl's back there rambling on, and then when the show starts, nothing.
It's like he feels the mic go live and tells the ladies, shh, he's up here. No interruptions. I'm going to go out there with my Marantz tomorrow and tape his ass and play it for you guys because I want you to hear my chickens. I love my chickens. Either that or maybe
I hear the crickets. I hear the cricket. You didn't have your cricket mic on though to start the show. Now that we thought about it, we think about it.
No, it's been live since we went on. The mic's been open.
But usually you open up your show with the cricket.
Oh, with just the cricket. Yeah,
just the crickets. We haven't done that yet this year.
No, because it's not dark enough yet. I mean, it's a little too.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's right.
It'll probably have to be one of the Saturday night shots or later on in the fall.
Oh yeah, shoot! Somebody posted in there about the banker death. We didn't even touch on that story.
Poop.
Next thing, but yeah, there could be another one or two bankers we could talk about by Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll hit that on Wednesday.
Yep.
I personally think that the Ukraine thing is much worse than Capital One making a little bit of money on some dude eating it. I mean, it's just telling as to what happens. When you get deep into the matrix. I mean, when people are riding the wave, you only get to ride it so long, and then somebody's going to cash out your chip for you. Ask Bernie Madoff. Anyway.
Well, Bernie Madoff's in jail because he robbed from the 1%, not the 99%.
That's right.
Rob from the 99%, you get a bailout. Rob from the 1%, you get jail or death.
Or death. Nail gun to the head 7 times.
Suicide. You get suicided.
Right. Peace and love, everybody. The music's getting ready to roll here in just about 30 seconds, I think. Something like that. Make sure you do the things that you want to do now. It's not going to be peaches and cream very much longer.
Yeah, we say it all the time.
Yeah, the shade's getting ready to pull back. Watch them gold prices. Watch them silver prices. If they peak at $100 a day, that's all they let them roll. Once they start hitting that $100 a day mark, it's coming. What the hell was that?
I thought you had a new intro. There it is again. And then there's your music.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Was that the black van down the street?
It might have been. I don't know. You guys need to get some coffee. See you guys. Thanks, Lance.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah, live, laugh, and love. Turboville's next, everybody. Hang on. After that, let's see. What do I got? Oh, it hadn't rolled over yet.